Are you proud to be Hispanic?
Hispanics in Florida now have the first Hispanic car license plate in the United States.
Be a proud Hispanic.
Put the Hispanic plate on your car.
I want to be a doctor.
I want to be a scientist.
I want to be an engineer.
I want to be a police officer.
I want to be a professional dancer.
By getting the Hispanic plate for your car,
you will support scholarships and community programs.
Call now or visit HispanicAchievers.org.
Hi, I'm Danny Ramos, and welcome to this week's edition of Hispanic Speak Out TV, brought to you for 14 years on Bright House Cable Networks. We also air two other shows, one called EDU TV. EDU TV is a show created for educators that talks about the educational system in the state of Florida. It's very controversial because it's a topic in a world unto itself. We talk about budgets having to do with education, the politics of education, the funding of education, and the system and how the system works. Common Core versus choice versus other issues such as charter schools. So this is a very, very important show. It's the only show of its kind on the air in the state of Florida. So tune in for EDU TV. Then we also have Latina Role Models. Latina Role Models is on at 10 p.m. right after this show. And what we do is we feature the successes of Hispanic women in our society and their contributions to all of our communities. And that's a great show also. Hispanic Speak Out, as you know, is a political issue show. It's sometimes very controversial. And tonight, Jose and I are going to dialogue a little bit about something that's very controversial. And it's been out there for a long time, although the community has not been successful in pushing it forward, pushing an agenda forward. And this agenda is about racism against the Puerto Rican community. Jose, you want to ask me a question, or you want me to lead off?
Well, no. Let's start with the definition of racism.
Well, racism is, and I didn't write down the definition of racism, but it is when a group, an agency, a government agency, a company, or a person, okay, discriminates against another group or person by relating to them that they are inferior to them in some way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. Okay, basically. So racism is a very negative situation. Right. It can be a government agency that's racist towards a particular group. Right. It could be an individual, it could be an organization. Okay?
So in this case, based on that definition, looking at the island of Puerto Rico, we can categorically say to everyone out there that the United States government has been racist to the island of Puerto Rico.
It's been racist against the Puerto Rican people.
Right.
There is absolutely no question that the United States government, the Congress of the United States, the House of Representatives, the Senate, our elected officials right. are racist in the case, by definition of what racism is, right. in the case of Puerto Rico, the island of Puerto Rico. So here locally, because all of these congressmen and all of these elected officials are aware of the situation, and they have not done anything. Right. So they're condoning the racial policy, the racist policy of the United States government, which was institutionalized in 1917 right. against Puerto Ricans. Now, Puerto Rico has been a part of the United States for 117 years.
As a commonwealth.
As a territory and commonwealth.
Right.
In 1917, the United States Congress enacted a law called the Jones Act.
Okay.
And the Jones Act, what it did was it mimicked the government of Puerto Rico. In other words, the Congress of the United States, including the President of the United States, created a government in Puerto Rico that mimicked the United States government. It had a House of Representatives, right. it has a Senate, it has an executive branch, a judiciary, a legislative branch. Right. So what they did in Puerto Rico is they said, okay, we're going to make you like us. Now, everything that happens in Puerto Rico can be vetoed by the President of the United States.
Okay.
A lot of people don't know that. The legislature of Puerto Rico can pass a law, and it can be vetoed by the governor, just like the president can veto a law.
By the governor or the president?
Well, in Puerto Rico, by the governor.
Right.
So there are steps. So what happens is that if the legislature passes a law, just like in the United States, when the Congress passes a law, the President of the United States can veto the law. You've heard many times the President Obama saying, don't bother sending it because I will veto it.
Right.
Well, that happens in Puerto Rico also. The governor can veto a law coming out of the state legislature of Puerto Rico.
Right.
However, They go one step further. The President of the United States can veto a law in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
He has the power to override. Now, that, I don't know, and I haven't looked up of a case that's actually happened, but the President of the United States, according to the Jones Act, which was passed in 1917, the President can veto any law that the legislature of Puerto Rico passes.
That he finds illegal.
That he finds that he doesn't want that law to go into effect.
Okay.
So what does that mean? That means that the President of the United States has direct oversee veto power over the island
Okay.
to determine what is and what is not politically
Okay.
in the law. Okay, now what do we have? Let's define the situation. Why is Puerto Rico looking at a situation of that the government of the United States is racist, has a racist policy towards Puerto Rico? Remember that by definition, when you issue a racist policy, you are doing something against a group, which is a minority group,
Right.
minority physically or minority because they're an ethnic group,
Right.
that they're not doing for everybody else.
Okay.
Okay, so they're taking them out of context and saying you can't do that. Okay, the Constitution of the United States provides there is only one kind of citizenship in the United States. You either are a citizen
Or you're not.
or you're not a citizen. The
Right.
Constitution does not provide for different levels of citizenship.
Okay.
Okay? There are no different levels. You're a citizen or you're not. And the Constitution provides that if you are a citizen, every single person in the United States who's a citizen has equal rights. It doesn't matter where you were born, what color you are.
Okay.
It doesn't matter what ethnic group you are. It doesn't matter your political philosophy, your religious philosophy, or your social philosophy.
But
You're all equal
Okay.
in the political world.
Okay, but in this case,
In the case of Puerto Rico,
it's not that.
it's not that.
Right.
The government of the United States has a racist policy against Puerto Rico because Puerto Ricans are citizens of the United States that are not permitted to vote.
Okay.
They're not. How can you have a citizen and say you're a citizen of the United States,
Right.
but you're not allowed to vote? Now you were a vet, right?
Yes.
Okay. As a veteran, when you went to Vietnam, okay, you could have voted with an absentee ballot.
Right.
Okay, and you could have voted. You're Puerto Rican. You could have voted when you were in Vietnam
Right.
for the presidential elections. Okay, you go back to Puerto Rico and take up residence in Puerto Rico, and you, as a veteran who could have voted in Vietnam, are not permitted to vote because you reside in Puerto Rico.
Right.
Okay, you are a citizen, but you're not allowed to vote. Okay, so you have citizens of the United States that are not permitted to vote.
Right.
Which, Puerto Ricans are still trying to get a seat at the lunch counter.
Well, wait a minute. Now let's be fair.
Okay, let's be fair.
They've had allegedly votes on the island to establish whether they wish to become part of the mainland or not, and each
That's
time
statehood.
they denied it. They didn't want it.
Well, that's a separate issue.
Yeah, but if they became a state, for example, let me clarify that better. If they became a state, they will be allowed to vote.
Jose, you are a citizen of the United States. It doesn't matter if Puerto Rico is a state or not.
Right.
You have citizenship.
Okay.
You know what I mean? If they want to become a state like Hawaii did,
Right.
okay, they can. Okay, that's a separate issue.
So are you saying this is a puppet government as well on the island?
Yes, I am. I'm saying
You're
that
saying
right
it's a
now.
puppet government.
I am saying that Puerto Rico is subject to all the laws of the
Right.
United States, and they are U.S. citizens,
Okay.
but they are not allowed to vote.
Okay.
Okay? That's against the Constitution,
Okay.
and it's a racially charged racist policy
So why hasn't
of
it
the
been
government
changed?
of the United States.
Why hasn't it been changed?
We have to ask Congressman Micah. We have to ask Congressman Weber.
Okay.
We have to ask, the senator,
Okay.
Rubio. We have to ask them.
Well, he's running
We
for
have to
president.
ask-
He's busy right now.
Okay, well, I don't care about that. This is a major issue. This is going to be an issue for the election.
Okay.
Okay, you know why?
Why?
Because Puerto Ricans, there are 3 million plus Puerto Ricans here, or 4 million Puerto Ricans living
Right.
in the mainland that can vote.
Yes.
And we, on this show, we're going to make it an issue for the elections. I want to know why Republicans are against Puerto Ricans having equal citizenship.
Why should John Q. Citizen care about what goes on?
I don't care about John Q. Citizen, doesn't matter.
Well,
what matters
what do you
is,
care?
I care because this is, why do we care about blacks getting the right to vote? In the 1960s, when they passed the Civil Rights Act.
Right.
Why do we care about that?
But
Why do we
they
care
could always
about?
vote.
Why do we care about the Confederate flag flying over? Why? Because it's an issue
So
facing minorities.
you're comparing the Confederate flag to Puerto Rico?
No, what I'm saying is this. I am saying that the black community is far more advanced than the Puerto Rican community when it comes to civil rights and their personal rights as U.S. citizens.
Okay.
Can you imagine if you had black Americans who were living in a particular geographic area, who are citizens of the United States, that weren't permitted to vote for Obama?
Right.
And they're citizens, okay? What would the NAACP say? What would the Urban League say? Okay? It would be racist.
Okay.
Okay? We don't have, the Puerto Rican community does not have a mechanism like the NAACP or like other organizations that speak on their behalf.
So you're saying here in the mainland we need people to be aware of this so we can start to make the change, and that's by leaning on who?
By leaning on people who are running for office.
Okay.
Okay? I want to know where Bush stands on this.
Right.
I want to know every Democrat, I want to know where Hillary Clinton stands on this.
Okay.
Okay, we're equal. We love the community. We love civil rights. We're all for that.
Right.
Well, how come you haven't given the right to vote to U.S. citizens who are Puerto Rican?
Right.
It's racist.
And who also have served in our wars.
Look, in World War I,
right.
people don't know that. 20,000 Puerto Ricans were drafted out of Puerto Rico.
Right.
They went to the island to draft 20,000 plus Puerto Ricans to fight in World War I.
Okay.
In World War II, they did it again.
Really?
These are guys that cannot vote.
Right.
Okay, they're U.S. citizens that are not permitted to vote, and they fought. 65,000 to 70,000 Puerto Ricans fought in World War II.
Wow.
Okay, 48,000 fought in Vietnam. All of these guys were drafted.
Sure.
All were soldiers, and they were not permitted to. And they're citizens, and they were not permitted to vote. It's a tremendously negative racial issue that Puerto Ricans have against them that nobody, and I'm calling Micah out on it, Congressman Micah. You're my congressman. I want to know what your position is on this. Weber, you're a congressman here in Central Florida. I want to know what your position is on this, and I want you to take a position on it.
Senator Rubio?
Senator Rubio, our senator. Nelson, I want to know what your position is on this. And we're going to dog it, and we're going to look for every presidential candidate to take a position on the right to vote for Puerto Ricans who are citizens of the United States. You don't have the right to deny a citizen of the United States to vote. And we're going to make sure that every show that we do, we're going to be calling out politicians on this. And we're going to demand a change, starting at the White House. The President of the United States can issue an executive order. Now, an executive order, there's a lot of controversy about executive orders.
Sure.
What is an executive order? A president policy or directive that implements or interprets a federal statute or constitutional provision. That falls under the Jones Act.
Okay.
The President of the United States can interpret the Jones Act and say, you know what, it's against the Constitution of the United States to have a citizen of the United States not permitted to vote.
So you're saying our president, with his pen,
I believe that our president, with his pen,
Right.
can change the status of Puerto Rican vote in Puerto Rico.
Isn't that something that the Congress has to decide?
Well, it says that an act by the president, which is an executive order, does not require congressional approval.
Okay.
And one of the powers of an executive act is to prohibit racial discrimination.
Okay.
Because this falls under racial discrimination, with the signing of a pen, by definition of what the executive order is, he can eliminate this situation. The President of the United States can eliminate it, but nobody's addressed it.
Okay.
Nobody's addressed it. Listen, we're going to take a break right now. We're going to hit this every single week going forward, and we're going to send out 1 million emails on it repeatedly. We want the right for Puerto Rican citizens to be able to vote. We'll be right back.
Are you proud to be Hispanic?
Hispanics in Florida now have the first Hispanic car license plate in the United States.
Be a proud Hispanic.
Put the Hispanic plate on your car.
I want to be a doctor.
I want to be a scientist.
I want to be an engineer. I want to be a police officer.
I want to be a professional dancer.
By getting the Hispanic plate for your car,
You will support scholarships and community programs.
Call now or visit HispanicAchievers.org.
Hi, I'm Danny Ramos, and welcome back. We took a little break from our discussion on Puerto Rico and the racism against Puerto Ricans by the government of the United States. This is not an inflammatory statement that we're saying, this is a fact. Puerto Ricans are being discriminated against by the United States government. U.S. citizens are denied the right to vote. It's that simple. And we're going to continue that in our next show next week. We'll be bringing in people from elected officials that will be discussing that issue as we go forward. Right now, we're here with Jose Miranda to my right, Greg Perkins, which is the host of EDU TV, and William Garlington, who is a conservative Republican?
Conservative Republican, yes, sir.
Okay. And we're going to talk about some of the issues that are going on.
And
author of a book called It's Your Choice, America. And this book is available on the internet. And it's an interesting read, regardless of your philosophy. It's an interesting read. But of course, it reflects the very conservative politics. Okay, guys, there's a lot of stuff going on. We have the issue about the flag being taken down, which was being voted on. I know that you're for taking down the flag from...
Yeah, if it's a governmental agency.
If it's a government agency,
yeah.
Jose?
Yeah, I feel likewise. You can't do anything about the private sector, but
right.
William?
Absolutely. If it's hanging over the state capital or of South Carolina in this case, they should vote to remove it. We don't need it, but keep it privatized.
All right, so look at the vote here. I'm registered independent. He's about 200 miles west of California. You're a normal liberal. He's an abnormal liberal, and he's an abnormal conservative.
Yes.
You know, he's at the edge of the forest when it comes to being a conservative. You know,
extreme left, extreme right.
Yeah. So we've gotten here a consensus about a subject which is has major impact from all the groups.
Well,
so,
because people don't know the history of the flag. Just real briefly, they don't know the history of the flag and actually what it means and what it stands for, and why it was put up there in the 1950s.
Listen, if you watch some of the interviews on television, they'll ask you. I saw a guy ask, "We fought the Battle of Independence what year?" And he said, the guy said 1973. We have, and they asked graduating students from college questions and had no clue who was the Vice President of the United States. You know, and these are students who just graduated 4 years of university, 4 years of college. So there is a tremendous lack of knowledge of issues by the American public.
Yeah.
And that's where advertising comes in to influence the decision-making process, you know, through the flim-flam, you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of that.
So you were talking about the...
let's because he's our extreme conservative, okay? He's our, you're a token white guy.
There you go, there you go.
But listen, on the conservative side, Chicago had, over the weekend, an outrageous amount of shootings. Okay.
43. 43 shootings.
And what has happened with that is a cry out for, let's remove guns. We have too many guns in the city.
Okay.
Okay, so my take on that is too many guns, the law is weak, these guys are somehow having a revolving door, so how do we attack it? Let's take away the guns. So what do you think? We should take away the guns as much as possible.
Well, I totally disagree with removing the Second Amendment from the Constitution to right to bear arms.
Okay.
That is the Second Amendment.
But he didn't ask you that.
That's for the militia, though. We're not talking about militia here.
Well, in my book, I write about that.
You're referring to it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And there was some notable quotes to keep and bear arms.
Okay.
And I won't read all of them, but just one real quick from Benjamin Franklin. They that would give up essential liberty for a little bit of temporary safety deserves nothing, neither liberty nor safety. And what that means to me is if you take away firearms, and they tried to do this in World War II. With the Nazi Party. They took away the firearms and you input it with the militia, you take away the freedoms of American people, the right to defend themselves. Now, I'm all about gun control. I'm all about gun safety, background checks, but to just arbitrarily say to eliminate firearms that's in the Constitution because, you know...
But when the Constitution was written and Benjamin Franklin was hanging out, those things for arms was in case the British came back or a foreign enemy. We're not talking about foreign enemies. The foreign enemies now is us, Americans.
Right.
So shouldn't that law be at least tempered down in some fashion so that we prevent more guns on the street?
Well, I think it has been tempered down over the years. I think, like I said, I mean,
How so?
Well,
Based on what evidence?
Well, based upon the ongoing legislation of individuals, politicians, trying to, say you can't have such a, many magazines for a firearm.
I think we're mixing two things here that don't require to be mixed. Okay, in other words, it's like you have a salad. Right. And then you put vinegar in it and oil. The vinegar and oil just don't mix.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's what we have here. Because you're talking about what's going on in Chicago.
Yeah, but
and you're talking about gun rights.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. What you have in Chicago is illegal guns.
Yeah, that's right.
Or people that should not be carrying firearms.
They don't have the right to carry firearms. The firearms are illegal.
Yes.
And they do not have the right to carry firearms, and they're using them.
Yes.
So it's illegal. If you have a person, for example, myself, I carry a firearm. I am legally registered. I've gone through a background check.
Okay. Me too.
Okay? And I've had a firearm for 20 years. Okay? I've never had an incident.
You have a bazooka at home?
No, I have a shotgun at home.
Okay. Do you have like a 45-round chamber? Bullets?
No, I have a 16 chamber.
Do you
16
need
bullets.
45 rounds?
No, I don't need. I don't need 45 rounds. But we're not talking about me.
No, but we're talking about.
We're not. I'm a responsible gun owner.
Okay, but you're talking about.
And as a responsible gun owner, I'm entitled to have anything I want.
Okay.
Yeah, isn't
Now, I'm not talking about automatic weapons. Okay.
Right.
But if I want a 16 clip, I get a 16 clip. I'm not, I'm a responsible, registered by law, fingerprinted gun owner.
No, but
now we're not talking about that in Chicago.
Yeah. But
in Chicago, we're talking about gangs who buy guns illegally, who rob, and people who rob stores and kill each other because there's always gang warfare. Those guns should be totally eliminated.
And they get a slap on the wrist from the
you catch somebody with a gun, okay?
That's what's been happening. Yeah.
Ship them off to Alaska for 2 years.
Right.
Give them jail time.
Yeah, I don't.
Or create a mechanism. In New York City, they had the frisk.
What they found illegal.
Stop and frisk. That was a bit.
Yeah, guess what? The murder rate has gone up. It's tripled in New York since they stopped that.
True.
The murder rate has gone up.
Triple. It's probably going
Listen,
up.
we'll look it up on the internet. It's gone up substantially.
That's not a direct correlation.
When you say that it's gone up, you're thinking about what about the one person who got murdered?
Okay. Now you want to
Okay, the one person who got murdered really objects to the fact that he got murdered.
No, I was with you until you just went off the rails there.
I didn't go off the rails.
a little bit, because I guess the whole argument about guns in America, it's like, how in the heck can these guys get their hands on all of these illegal guns, and can't we stop this? The way that they're killing each other up?
We can stop it if we give law enforcement the right to go in and take them away. They're being blocked from going in, just like they just started to block the frisk law in New York. You can't, the guy's carrying, you can tell. He got a bulge here, you can tell. There are people you can tell.
He makes a good point. Greg makes a good point. How can you stop it? You can get tough on the law when you have a first or second or third, or with the person that killed that lady, 5 times deported. I mean, how many chances are individuals going to receive before the community, in this case Chicago, says what you just said? How can we stop this? You stop it by tough laws against those perpetrators
because
using illegal firearms in a bad way toward people.
Look, Florida
like 45 times when these guys was in jail. I'm like, how in the hell are you getting in jail 45 times?
It's
ridiculous.
It's the court system that, in my opinion,
it's
in my
penalty.
book,
the penalty
that has gone more liberal than conservative.
Oh, there we go.
No, they did. Okay, just briefly on that.
Yes, sir.
We're talking about guns, but it's not that they're going more liberal. It's that we can't afford to keep these guys locked up. It costs a ton of money. So
then, if we can't afford to keep them locked up, then you're going to look at 43 people being shot every weekend.
I understand that, but it's about economics. It's about overcrowding. All those are issues that are pertinent to what's going on in the justice system. Should we get stronger? Absolutely. But can we? It's up to the community, as you said.
It's up to the community
at large. Chicagoans have to get up and say enough.
Right, and as I was telling Greg back in the room, is if I took a city, let's say Chicago, in another city, let's say Austin, and I put them on the map, okay, and I said one's got high crime, Chicago, and one has lower crime, in Bill's opinion, it's because of the way the government locally is operating. In other words, liberalism allows, in my opinion, this to continue to go on. Look at Maryland. I mean, Baltimore. Look at, we dumped all this money, and still the educational system is bad.
But Austin's a pretty liberal city too.
It is. I'm just taking two different cities where you don't, like Orlando here doesn't have the crime that Chicago has.
What's happened is,
yes, we do have crime.
We have, but not to that point. We have allowed it to get out of control.
Yes.
Okay, and that has a lot to do with the enforcement of the law. We are limiting because of the concept of profiling, because minorities feel they're being profiled. Oh, they profiled me. You don't have the right to profile me. You found a gun on me. It's illegal, but you profiled me. Okay, so therefore, you got to let me go.
Right.
Okay, and that's an issue. That's a big issue. So if you go into a neighborhood and a person is acting suspiciously, do you have the right, does a policeman have the right to question and frisk?
I think so.
Okay, so that would, if somebody came up to me and frisked me, the first thing I'd say is, I've been stopped by a cop, for traffic infringement. Okay, the first thing, roll down the window, officer, I have an armed weapon in my glove compartment. Okay, I tell them right off the bat.
I don't think that's the issue so much as they.
But that's an attitude.
Yeah, I get that, but
because I'm legal, I can do that.
Danny, but they normally end up shooting the innocent person. Okay, so use some professional discretion. There was an arrest right here in Orlando last night, and that guy was stopped for good reason. The cop stopped him. He smelled marijuana. The guy chases off. Okay, fine. You don't hear any uproar about that. Oh, why was the white cop chasing the black guy? No one's complaining. Okay, he smelled like marijuana. That was a proper frisk. But
let me ask you something.
Guy who has child support or some
okay, let me
like
ask you something.
Yeah.
Chicago police. Would you support the idea of putting undercover black officers melting into the community to weed out people with firearms?
Yeah.
To blow the whistle. In other words, they move into the neighborhood.
Yes.
Well, it's not working.
What's not working there is the law. That's what's not working.
The law is there. They're not allowed. It's against the law to carry a gun.
What's not working there is
the penalty.
Is the penalty. Is the judicial system has to be redone. And that has to be done by a
So then what happens? What happens then is you get a disproportion of minorities in the jails.
Right.
Correct.
Because what's going to happen is, no, it's a gun infringement. Okay, let them go. No, it's a gun infringement, 2 years in jail.
No, Danny, I don't think anyone is going to complain if a black guy illegally has a gun and you put him in jail. You're not going to see an uproar from the African American community about that because their own kids are getting killed. So why would you protect somebody?
So then why isn't it all right, so then why isn't the political system, which you have a Democratic mayor directly out of the White House, in Obama's hometown, why isn't he implementing that?
Why? Who? The president has nothing to do with that.
Listen, you didn't listen. You went on. What I'm saying is the mayor of the city of Chicago, okay, was the chief of staff for Obama.
Okay. Right.
That's how he got elected.
So what's the point?
Okay. The point is that he is the chief executive officer of Chicago. He has not taken any action to eliminate this.
Now, I would have to say, as a liberal Democrat, I'm a little perplexed by that. I'm going to have to agree with you on that. No, I don't understand. You're the mayor.
Because Obama is against guns. He's totally against guns.
Let's leave Obama out of it because they do have a mayor and a governor of the state.
And so that's a great point, Danny. So what I'm trying to say, I'll just piggyback on that point. Okay. In my opinion, it's due to liberalism.
Okay, we're going to break on that. Listen, we just finished this show, but we're going to continue a part 2 of this show. So we will see you next week talking about this same subject. See you next week on Hispanic Speak Out TV. Danny Ramos, Jose Miranda, Greg Perkins, and William Garlington. See you next week.